different members of the staff there would make proposals to say, well, you ought to work on, here's something you work on. And one of the proposals was by Hartmanis. Now, Hartmanis had written a paper called The State Assignment Problem Number One. And he said, well, look, this was involving finite state machines and partitions with a substitution property. And he said, well, I know you can have, in effect, the input partitioned in one way and the output partitioned in another way, and they fit together. So he said, look at this. So I did look at that, and I made different examples, and in order to learn more about the problem, and I came up with the idea of partition pairs, which essentially is the example he had given me was that. But I also came up with the idea that you could have a lattice called the MM lattice, which would describe the set of all these pairs. So you've gone beyond just describing the pairs themselves. So that became the paper known as State Assignment 2. Well, that was before I had started my thesis. So I had to get at the end of the next year, and Shuey called me on the phone and said, when you will come back for another summer? And I said, well, I think I'll be out. So they offered me a permanent job. So, of course, it was natural, having started on sequential machines, that we continued our work on that, and we had several papers on it, which I won't go into. But finally, we decided we'd put the material together in a book. So that was this book on the algebraic structure theory of sequential machines. Well, it didn't turn out to be very practical, but it was quite enjoyable and rigorous, and we got many people who had read it said, well, it was their first rigorous presentation of something having to do with this field. Well, Uris had read Shannon's work on the information theory, and he thought there must be a reason why things are hard, and maybe something like that might be the foundation for complexity. Well, and we thought that maybe trying to study the transition from finite state machines to context-free languages to Turing machine, maybe kind of studying that transition, maybe that would be helpful. And we had some preliminary stuff on Turing machines, not really complexity, and I've forgotten what it was. Yours is speculating that we had just rediscovered some things about recursive sets or something. I mean, I don't know exactly. We were thinking of complexity classes as the set of all things that you could do in a certain amount of time. In a sense, that's an easiness class, things that you can do in a time. But Obviously, we're not going to call our stuff computational easiness. Anyway, paper came out by Yamada on real-time countable functions. And that was really the missing piece, because basically he was talking about now what would be called, time constructible functions. And so somehow we had the idea of what a complexity class was, and now we saw that in effect a computer could, particularly a Turing machine, could keep track of time, like when 1n squared time, when 1 squared and 2 squared and 3 squared and 4, to keep track of those time intervals. And so that's what we needed in order to do the diagonalization. So that was the final breakthrough. And at first we used his model. His model was to put out an infinite sequence. And so we developed a hierarchy based on infinite sequences. Well, there was also at that time, the language recognition problem, where at that time there wasn't a standard even to work from. Well, we could show that the same thing applied to the language recognition problem. So that's how we put the thing together. Then, of course, we wanted to get that out to the computer science community, and many of the what we could call theoretical computer scientists attended a conference called Switching Circuit Theory and Logic Design. And so 1964, we presented our results to that group. And of course, our published paper came out subsequent to that. So we also presented it at an IFEPS conference, which is another way of reaching people. And having aptly named it on the computational complexity of algorithms, a catchy title, and people started working on it.